What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium's TV review of the new HBO original series, The Nevers. This, of course, is the review of episode 1 of season 1, which is called Touched. Now, before we begin, if you like this channel, awesome, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome, hit that like button, as well as comment below any video to watch, including this one. So, The Nevers is the first, I think one of the first series I'm going to be talking about and reviewing that doesn't have a source material, which is kind of interesting. It is created by Joss Whedon, unfortunately. Joss Whedon, as we all know, is in the middle of some issues right now. But I did read that he did step down, so the thing I was worried about was if Joss Whedon was involved with the series and it kept going, it might lose a lot of audience members. And I think at this point with this first season, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because unfortunately, Joss Whedon did direct 4 episodes. He is going to be considered executive producer, but he's not going to be involved after the first season. So that's a good thing that helps with hopefully the second season being, its own thing and not having this big kind of shadow forming around it with, of course, Joss Whedon and all his legal troubles at the moment. But I kind of want to just get that out of the way just for the simple fact of it's Joss Whedon, he's in trouble, so on and so forth. So anyways, this series, The Nevers, it's a series about, it looks like something similar to Mrs. Pettigrew or Mrs. Pettigrew's House of, Extraordinary Children, the book and the movie that had Eva Green in it, and of course directed by Tim Burton. And of course it's set in the 18th century, which is always a fascinating century to set these kinds of sci-fi slash magical style shows, because you don't have the update of technology. You're dealing with like old school electricity. You're dealing with all these things that are very old school in its nature. So you don't have like cell phones or computers or anything. At least at the moment, it doesn't look like there's anything like that. And you can really kind of harness and focus on the ideas and natures of this world, which is set in London. Victorian London has this group of people called the Touched. And it has this kind of, like I said, schools very similar to Miss Pettigrew or whatever it is. And I find that fascinating. I really did. I liked the trailers. I thought they were interesting. Once again, thank you to HBO for allowing me to see it early. And it's very much in my line of just cool sci-fi whimsical type material. And so with that said, the first episode, which is called Touched, is the setup episode, as they always do. It's an hour and 14 minutes, so you get to like 14 minutes before the actual opening title sequence actually happens, which, in these first episodes, especially with HBO, they don't usually show the title sequence, the actual title sequence, so it goes from like the first episode or the first 14 minutes and just says The Nevers, so I'm assuming there's going to be a title sequence at some point in this series, so I'll be really interested to see what that's like. And so we're introduced to characters who are played by Donnelly and of course Anne Skelly, who play Penance and Miss True. There are a couple of individuals who at first they don't seem different, they don't seem out of sorts until you see a little bit of their back history, where Penance actually commits suicide, but she wakes up and she's having these weird dreams and fever problems and stuff like that. And so we see at the beginning of this episode, we see some really interesting concepts of who Penance and of course True, what they do. The first mission that we see them on is they end up at this house of this young girl who is speaking Chinese for whatever reason. She's a British young girl, but somehow she's speaking a different language. And we see that there's this kind of, I want to say like this cult that tries to take her away. They actually rescue her. I think the parents hired the cult and stuff like that. And so basically there's this big kind of action set piece that involves them rescuing this young girl. And this young girl's taken back to their kind of missionary and stuff like that. And, we find out that, Penance has basically metahuman abilities. She has the ability to do some cool things. True is in essence a kind of a worker. She's the one who invents stuff. So all the cool tech pieces that you see in the beginning of this episode, like the little flying robot thing and the umbrella and stuff like that, and the car that they end up driving, it's a lot of that little stuff that she ends up inventing and stuff like that. So she's super smart. So she's like Watson to Holmes and stuff like that. And basically this whole episode is in essence introducing us to the group called the Touched. And the Touched are individual women, individual people that have certain abilities, certain kind of differences about them that isn't really recognized as being pure in the human sense, because remember the 18th century Victorian era, these types of things would be looked at as, as you going to, insane asylum and stuff like that. It's very much showing us what would happen if these people were real and how they'd be affected by it and so on and so forth. So like I said, it's like Miss Pettigrew, whatever it is, where it's a place as a refuge and stuff like that. So this young girl ends up becoming kind of friends and kind of partners with this young girl named Primrose, who ends up being this gigantic woman, like, 15, 20 feet tall and stuff like that. And it's just like a really cool gag, a really cool trick and stuff like that to watch, all these kind of girls and stuff like that have different abilities and whatnot. But like I said, the overall arcing thing is to set up this world, set up the story. So we have Ben Chaplin, who plays Frank Mundy, who's investigating a metahuman or a touch who's going around murdering people, which will actually affect later on the story of the first episode. And in the process, the two women are hired, or in essence, to find this young woman, this kind of crazy woman, I guess you could say, who's trying to hunt down this kind of angelistic type person to kill her with the help of certain individuals. And so they're confronted by a character who's played by Nick Frost, who of course is played Declan Oran, who is the beggar king. He's like the low life individual. I love when Nick Frost comes into shows or movies or anything like that, because he's just he's a straightforward, fun person to watch as an actor, to watch as an individual who is going to do nasty things, especially in this show. I can't wait to see where his character goes, but he's not really in it very much, but he has some, there's some things that you're gonna see as the series probably goes along. And then there's this group of individuals who are trying to find a way for the touched individuals to be kind of put under and stuff like that. And it's like a group of men, white men, I guess you could say. But this episode kind of comes to a head when we have this woman called Milady who is killing touched individuals. Like I said, Ben Chaplin's investigating and stuff like that. And it leads Penance and True to go to this opera house where we meet the Olivia Williams character. They're watching kind of this really operatic show and stuff like that. It basically opens up with this guy being slashed in the throat, like during halfway through the show. And Milady basically threatens everyone unless this angelistic human touch character comes forward. And in the process, she's, very disgusting, very, very methodical in what she's doing. She ends up using her like side person or whatever. She uses her second in command to basically, he has like a gun turret attached to his arm, and he just like mows down a whole bunch of people. It's actually, in today's society, it's a little uncomfortable to watch, just with the whole idea of gun problems, gun violence, stuff like that. But he uses like this really cool chainmail gun on it, and it just mows down people. And we come to the conclusion of the woman in the cage, where she has this like angelic voice and very beautiful and very calming and stuff like that. And so Milady, or Melody as they want to call her, she basically takes the angelic woman, and Penance goes after her, and there's a big battle ensues. And of course Melody and her right hand woman, or I guess you could say, they manage to escape. And the Frank Mundy, the Ben Chaplin character, and the Hugo Swan, James Norton character, they have their discussion. James Norton's character is very much he's going to get what he wants, and he's going to use every power in his book because he's a aristocrat and he's important. And I'm going to see how his character plays out, but he seems like a very much, you have to kind of appease him to get what you want. But he's a fascinating character that doesn't really have a lot, but his character introduction is very interesting and fascinating, and how he plays people and so on and so forth. So we see at the end, we see Penance and of course True have their conversation that usually is in these types of first episodes, and the episode kind of ends with this doctor who's working on the people that tried to kidnap the young girl at the very beginning of the episode. Then there's the WTF moment that completely unravels or uplifts anything in this entire episode in the series. What is with the ship? Everybody looks up at it. This is getting into like some Dark City territory. Maybe was this ship like controlling everyone? This is where the metahuman, the touch come from. This is the big mystery. This is the open box. This is the J.J. Abrams mystery box. What is this? Who is this? What's going on? Because once it passes over Victorian London, everybody forgets it's there. So what's with the ship? It's one of those things you're like, okay, so this is true sci-fi. This is true fantasy. Who knows what's going on? What is this ship? Where does it belong? We're gonna find out in this first season. Maybe, maybe not. It's only 6 episodes, but it was pretty crazy stuff. I had like I said, once the little dust particles were coming down, and some people were passing out, and some people were, once it passed and when it disappeared, everybody forgot it was there. So it's maybe Men in Black. I don't know. So it was really interesting. I thought that was the most interesting part of the episode, but it was just like, okay. So I don't know. And that's kind of where the episode ends. It ends with this kind of, open narrative, kind of open box. They start kind of opening the onion, starting to see the little layers and kind of ideas and being presented in the episode. And overall, I think the episode is fine. I think, it was a little slow and a little plotty. And I think, in fact, it was like an hour and 14 minutes long, made it a little longer than it needed to be. But, I don't think that's an excuse, because Game of Thrones did that in its first episode, where I think it was like an hour and a half long, and they had other episodes that were much longer. But when you only have 6 episodes and the first episode kind of drags and the characters have motivations and plotting, and there's some interesting kind of concepts there, I don't think it entirely works. I think, the young girl stuff at the beginning was fascinating. I think the idea of this, super meta villain, whatever you want to call her, with melody and stuff like that, could be kind of cool and interesting. But I just, like I say with Snowpiercer, I hope it doesn't keep the experience from kind of opening up and being more interesting as it moves along. And we'll see. Like I said, it's only 6 episodes, so it'll be over before we know it. Like I said, the thing I also like about 6 and 8 episodes is, as long as they can structure the episodes properly and do what they need to do, I think it'll really work. But for a first episode, I think it's fine. I think it works. I don't think there's a huge amount of stuff here. We see, like I said, there's a doctor, there's a guy that helps Penance and True and stuff like that. We see a little bit of their ideas and what they want, the creators and writers and stuff like that. But for overall, I think it's probably like a 7.5 out of 10. It gives us a great open view of the world. The cast is pretty decently cast, stuff like that. I really like Laura Donnelly and Skelly. I think they're perfectly cast as the two kind of main actresses, two main characters in this story. I'm going to be interested to see where like James Norton goes with his character, Ben Chaplin and stuff like that. Ben Chaplin is one of those actors that's never gotten huge in his kind of world. His thing is being an actor, but I think he could have a little bit of fun with his character as the detective in this story. And yeah, just overall, like, I'm interested to see where Nick Frost's character is going to go. As him as the kind of the villainous kind of bad guy that lurks in the shadows and stuff like that. It could be really cool. And he has some twirling mustache type things and so on and so forth. So, but yeah, overall, just like I said, 7.5 out of 10 for the first episode is not bad. It's not great, but it's at least trying to be something cool and inventive and unique. And because it's set in the 18th century, it gives us a very interesting kind of idea and perspective on the series. So, but yeah, that'll do it. That'll be my take on the very first episode of The Nevers, which is season 1, episode 1, called Touched. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of the episode. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Where do you see this season going? Are you excited for where this season is going? Who's your favorite character? All that good stuff. Like I said, I'm really into what Nick Frost is doing, so I'm always excited when he comes on board. But anyways, let me know in the comments below. But otherwise, if you like what you see on the channel, hit that subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like the video, awesome. Hit that like button. As always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.